I'm feeling super fantastic, awesome. Ooh, 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 ooh.
Happy January, everybody. It's Brian Franks. Thank you for joining the I'm Feeling Super Fantastic Awesome podcast, episode 2. I'm starting to book some guests for our future events, people that I admire based on their positivity and persona, based on influences that they've had on me personally in my life to help me get to this phase in my life where positivity is something that's genuine, that's something I don't have to strive or work for as hard as I did early on in my life. Things that getting you to believe in yourself, right? So that's a big component of it. But also, we want to go into a couple things today that are topics that have come up in recent weeks, and I thought, I just share my thoughts on them. One being paying attention to the details. The other one being, spiritual versus religious. What are the differences? Where I was, early in my life, where I am today. And then when we get into other features, outside of the positivity, which kind of translates to, being a positive person, is things about sales, which is, in sales, knowing your audience. And then the last thing we're going to talk about is what's going on in the real estate industry, everything real estate, because that's my world. It's been my world for 33 years, and I'm passionate about it. So I'd like to speak about things that I'm passionate about. So positivity, sales, and real estate / mortgage, everything tied to real estate. So it's interesting in life, how we go through it, and we kind of go through the motions. You get up every day, you go to work. Most of us go to work. We do our tasks that are asked of us, of our managers, of our company. We come home, we eat dinner, we socialize with friends, family, and we go to sleep. We get up and do it the exact next day. And a lot of days in my life, I wasn't paying attention to the details. What's happening in that day? What are the things that are transpiring in that day? What doors were being opened that I wasn't seeing, that I wasn't walking through. Now, I've been lucky in my life where I've had the opportunity or the courage, even though I was really afraid, to walk through a lot of doors that were opening. I made it a point early in my life that if somebody gave an opportunity to me, that I'd walk through that door. Even though I didn't think I was worthy of it, I didn't think I had the capability of it, maybe I wasn't educated enough, maybe I didn't have the experience, but I'm going to walk through that door anyway because it opened. And I found so much about myself in taking on those challenges time and time again, that I was able to grow into something that I didn't know I could be. So let's talk about and explore that a little bit. And again, it goes back to paying attention to the details. Early on in my career, when I was growing up, I had a neighbor that had a landscaping company, and when we were 15, all of my siblings, all of my brothers, Mike, Mark and Scott, we all worked for our friends, the Coolahans that lived across the street. Jeff and Greg had a company called Innovative Landscaping, and it was a good fit, right? You can make good money as a kid going into high school, and it's right next door. And they ran a great company. They actually had a big company called NFL Films. If you're not familiar with NFL Films, that's the company that records all of the NFL games. So all of their equipment, they fly it out for each game, all the cameras and all of that stuff. They also house all and store all the footage. And they were based out of Mount Laurel, New Jersey, which is right around the corner from where I grew up, which was Cherry Hill, New Jersey, in South Jersey. The first episode, you probably might have noticed I was wearing an Eagles hat. So, diehard Eagles fans. And, I'm recording this before the Eagles play the Green Bay Packers today. And, I'm going to be changing into my gear later on because I'm a little bit of a geek. I'm passionate about a couple things. I'm passionate about positivity. I'm passionate about helping others. I'm passionate about sales, passionate about real estate, and I'm also passionate about my Eagles. So, or maybe I said that twice. But regardless, if you're passionate about something, don't shy of going full in and going after it. So in my first experience in opening a door, as there was an opportunity to manage the innovative landscaping company while Greg was taking a job where his father worked and Jeff was going to school. And they gave me the opportunity, and I was only 18 at the time, so that was pretty big. And I was running the shop and I was managing people. Sometimes, my brother Mike's age, which was about 8 years older than me. And that could be intimidating because, who wants to listen to a snot-nosed 18-year-old? But, for the most part, I did a great job. And then I learned some lessons also. There was a lot of inexperience, and there are some mistakes that I made that, helped me grow into a better manager in my future that I had to learn. But I'm always extremely thankful to Greg and Jeff for giving me that opportunity to take that chance on me, manage, and try and help them. So thank you. Early on in life, a lot of people don't get an opportunity to manage something at 18. One of the things that is a staple of my career is, and how I get that opportunity then was I really focused on just outworking everybody. I remember a time before I was managing and I was just out there and Greg would actually, give me his Ford Ranger truck and I'll say, hey, listen, I have these jobs. Can you go do them? So I just work isolated on my own and go out and do something. And this one time he had 20 different properties and it needed fertilizing. It was like that time of year, you got to fertilize, you got everything ready. And he goes, if you can get this done before the end of the day, that'd be great. And I said, Greg, I can get this done before noon because I was, very eager to work every day. So we started at 7 a.m., and sometimes we work until sunset. And then we'd go and play volleyball until midnight. And then we get up the next day and do it all over again. To be young again and have that energy. So I said, I can get it done before noon. He's like, if you get it done before noon, I'll give you $20. Because one of the things that I like to do is I like solving puzzles. So I looked at the list of addresses that I had to go do, these 20 addresses I had to go do. And fertilizing, you take the bags of fertilizer, put them in the fertilizer, you run the gamut of the yards, you spread it out all over the place, you get in the car, you go do it, go do it all over again. So the first thing you have to do if you're going to try and beat the time is you have to map out all the different locations because they weren't 20 houses in a row. They were 20 houses in several different neighborhoods and not all of those houses were tied together or close together. But I was very familiar with the route because we cut those lawns over and over and over and over again. So I was familiar with that. So very quickly in my head, I mapped out, how do I get to all of these? Because some of them were kind of remote, you know, and then get back to Greg by noon. Long story short, you know, I mapped it out. I got the job done. And I come back, and it's noontime, and they're about ready to break for lunch. They all gathered back at the Coolahan's house across the street from our house on good old Salem Road in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. And I'm pulling up, and Greg just reaches into his wallet and pulls out $20 and gives it to me. So, you know, that was my first bonus check, you know. So I was super excited to have an extra $20 in my pocket. But you know, the thing about that is, you know, the opportunity is there. You know, somebody opens a door. You know, you have to have the attention to detail to know how to make the most of a given situation that comes up. So that was my first experience in paying attention to the detail. As you know, I moved on in my life. I ended up getting into mortgage very early. I was taking college courses. I was working in men's retail and in community college courses, working in men's retail. I was still landscaping on the weekends. I had various other friends that had landscaping companies. I was stocking shelves in a liquor store. I was working in restaurants as a cook. I was working 2 or 3 jobs. And when I got the opportunity to work in mortgage, my brothers were already there, and I think I talked a little bit about this before. But again, another door opened. I was living up in the Lehigh Valley in Pennsylvania, which is in the Allentown area, and about 50 minutes away from my home. And my brothers came a calling and said, "Listen, if come down here, there's a great opportunity down here. They're hiring a lot of young people without any experience in mortgage." It was the company was called PHH, still a company today, and they were really growing leaps and bounds. They had an awesome platform. It was private label platforms. They were doing mortgages under the umbrella and the names of big companies like USAA. And with that, they needed a headcount. They needed people to come in and do that. So, again, just, my brother's out, telling me about it. The opportunity came up, took the opportunity and walked through that door. But I had to pay attention to the details because I'm brand new, didn't know anything about mortgage. So my first job was just typing in an application, but paying attention to what I was typing in. I was typing in these applications from people in Ohio and Central America, Iowa, Illinois. But what I was paying attention to is I was paying attention to the information I was typing in there: job, employment, income, the assets, the property owned, real estate owned. So I wasn't just arbitrarily just typing in numbers and letters and all of that stuff. I was paying attention to what was going on. And that led to a very quick evolution from being a processor assistant to a processor. If you don't know the mortgage industry at all, a processor is somebody that, when your loan is originated, collects all the information that is needed, documentation and information that is needed from the applicant or the buyers, so they can prepare the loan for underwriting. And once the loan is underwritten, they may need additional documentation to clear conditions to get it clear to close, and then get that file over to the closing department, who then closes and funds the loan. And now you have a happy either existing buyer that was refinancing at the time from 13% to 9.5%, or the new homeowner that was purchasing their first home or existing home or investment property or something to that effect. And there's a lot of lessons learned in that as well, right? How to calculate income, how to understand the guidelines of the investors that you're getting the file over to underwriting. You don't want to send a loan to underwriting that comes back declined. So you have to understand the different variations of income. You have to understand how to read tax returns. You have to understand how to read bank statements. You have to understand how to look at the details of real estate owned properties and all the nuances of the real estate owned. Is it rented? Is it a second home? Is it taxes, insurance, and HOA dues, and calculate that out. You have positive rental income. You have negative rental income. How does that impact your debt to income ratios? So I got really good at paying attention to the details. And at that time, I thought I was so good at it that, again, my youth and my hubris got the best of me. So I thought I could tackle some things in 4 days, and then on the 5th day, kind of take it light. On the 4th day, on the evenings, Thursday evenings, being young and 21 and being in a group of youthful people, we would go out and we would party it up. We'd have a great time, stay out late, and I'd be coming into work the next day, not ready to work, and I thought in my head, if I just got all my work done in the first 4 days, that whatever I did on the 5th day is irrelevant. I'm already done my work. That came back to bite me. Again, youth, hubris, at some point in that career. And again, I almost lost my mortgage career. I've been doing it for 33 years, but these are lessons in life. And we all don't go through everything and hit everything the first time around. We have to have some hard lessons along the way. Some of us, me being one of them. I just remember this meeting I had with my manager and her supervisor. And they said, "Hey, Brian, we have to have an understanding. We're not happy with your performance." And I'm thinking, wait a minute, what do you mean you're not happy with my performance? I get my work done, by Thursday. Everything's in underwriting and everything's ready to go and nothing's falling behind and all my calls are made. And, I'm defensive. I'm really defensive at this point. And they said something that stuck with me. And what they said was, yes, we know all of that. The issue is the people that are around you. And we worked in this environment where you had cubicles around you, and it was an open cubicle. You had little picture windows. You had some privacy, but not much. So you could look over, and you had these rows of individuals. And I was friends with all of them because I was the one that was, a lot of times I was kind of hosting that happy hours and trying to get people together. I would run events, where we'd go to like the Phillies game, or we'd go on a hayride, or and I'd be collecting the money and organizing it, or we'd plan a happy hour at a common place we went to, which was very close to our facility, at a place called Taylor's. It was a nightclub type of thing. So, so I'm thinking, everybody loves me. Who the hell would complain about me? Well, the reality is that if you come in and you're hungover and you don't smell so good, well, you smell a little bit of alcohol still, because back then there was a lot of alcohol drank, back then I did shots. I'm still trying to figure out shots. Why I thought that was a good idea, because that's a lot of alcohol in a short period of time, and you don't feel the effects of it right away, so you keep doing them, and the next thing you know, it's like you pull the pin out of a grenade, you throw it out there, and then an hour later it goes off, and and then the next thing you know, you're not talking so eloquently. So what the manager said was, we're getting a lot of complaints from the people around you. And, you're a distraction to them. And that's where it clicked. It wasn't about me. So, 180, stopped going out Thursday nights. At work, diligently, early, not on time, early. I regained the respect out of the entire team I was on, managers, everybody. To the extent, within 6 months, with the ratings I was getting from my customers, the enthusiasm I had, I was always very energetic. And again, I was the one who was entertaining with everybody else, getting everybody to talk, and working with the departments, whether it was the appraisal department or the underwriting department or the closing department. I didn't just go over and drop off a file. I went over and I engaged, I talked to people, I just got to know them. I tried to figure them out, sometimes because, in my world, if something wasn't 100%, I am thinking about that. If people respected you, they'd accept your opinion on something. So I got to this point where I was so energetic and flamboyant and verbal and all of that stuff. My managers started saying, you need to go to sales. Not as a negative thing. I was like, you just need to advance your career. You need to go. And I knew nothing. In my mind, I knew nothing about sales. Right? Originating is different than processing. Processing is the sales already done. Now you just got to put the pieces of the puzzle together to get it to the closing table. So again, back to the puzzle thing. I was very good at solving puzzles, putting pieces of information together, collaborating it in my head to getting to the best outcome, to the quickest and best outcome. So in sales, you're doing the same thing. You're just doing it a lot faster. You're doing it in minutes versus doing it over a period of a couple days or weeks, depending, because you're reading documentation, right? And now in sales, you're trying to convince somebody that, not convince them. You're trying to give them the options. And understanding of what's good and bad, right? I always took the sales approach as I'm not going to try and sell you the product that I have. I'm just going to tell you why I think it's good based on your circumstances, because not every refinance made sense to every individual. I could have somebody that was, trying to save 0.25% on their interest rate, and it doesn't make any sense unless you have $100,000 in equity, you have $1,000 in extra expenses outside your housing expenses that are draining your ability to, go on vacation or, not feel like you're living paycheck to paycheck. Where if you take $40,000 out of that $100,000 equity and you pay off all your debt, and your payment either stays the same or maybe goes up by 100 or maybe goes down, your mortgage payment, that is, your net savings is $900 a month. So again, solving puzzles. So I got really good at solving those puzzles. I got really good at explaining, why I thought it was a good idea for an individual to take advantage of their circumstances, or it's not a good idea. You're not going to save much. It's not going to work out for you. I always prided myself on having good ethics. I'm not selling something just to sell it. Because, at the end of the day, it's other people's lives, and you want them to have success. You want them to not just leave the experience that they have, because, in a mortgage, the average lifespan of a mortgage in my world, and dealing in my world is 30 days, right? Whether you're processing or you're selling, that time from origination to close is an average of a 30-day period cycle. And I wasn't so concerned about that 30 days because that only impacted my wallet. I was concerned about the 30 years or the 10 years or however they planned on being in that house. So, over the course of my entire life, paying attention to the details, walking through the doors that were open, and I'll give some more examples down the road, or probably in conversations with my guests. I'll share those as well with my guests. I don't want to be repetitive and give everything out in one circumstance, but I'm sure as I engage with my guests, there'll be some commonality between their life experiences and their personal and professional growth and mine, where we interchange or we find each other learning from each other, which I'm very hopeful for. I'm looking forward to that. So the importance of paying attention to details, those are big pictures. But I hone it down nowadays to paying attention to the details in the day. What's happening within the day, and then break it down to what's happening within the hour, what's happening within the minute. And the reason that's important is, life is a series of events, good and bad. And in the moments that life is actually, hitting you, are you looking at these incidental moments in between that also have an impact? I was talking to my father the other day, and I was telling him how I evolved and learned, to be very grateful. And I said, I look for the little things, every day. I look for the little things. As little as catching 3 green lights in a row. Just simple things to be thankful for. There's circumstances you're driving in a car, and I drive a lot. That's somebody stops short on something, or paying attention to something, or a squirrel runs across the road, and you avoid hitting that squirrel, you avoid hitting that accident. Be thankful at that moment. It's unbelievable. Now, if you do end up getting that squirrel, or you do end up getting in that accident, those moments are going to hit you. And then at those moments, you have to find ways to navigate through those emotions and put yourself in a bit of perspective. I had a conversation with somebody the other day who was in an accident, and in her circumstances, it was a bad accident. She goes into the accident, and she was visiting her daughters, our daughter and her granddaughter, I'm sorry. And she was saying, I haven't gone back to seeing them since because of that accident. And I said, that's weird. Now, there was a chain of events that I had, that weekend. And I was just having a conversation with her. I hadn't seen her in a while. But at the end of this dialogue back and forth, she was saying, I'm afraid to go back into that area. In this particular case, is Port St. Lucie, Florida, because I almost died there. And the way she described the incident is like, I got to the hospital, my car was totaled, but I didn't break any bones, and I didn't have any, large bruises. And the doctor said it was a miracle that I didn't break any bones. I didn't have anything. While she was in the hospital, she ended up getting COVID, which had nothing to do with the accident, just the fact that she had to stay in the hospital, to recover. So she only stayed in the hospital because of the COVID, not because of the accident. A little soreness. But again, based on the car being totaled and getting hit by a truck. And she was like, I almost died there and I'm afraid to go back. And I said, well, that's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is you were saved there, and that kind of gets me into my next topic. Early in my life, and again, being saved there, it's a different perspective, and the conversation, again, holistically, at the end of it, she came up more positive than she went in, because she was like, I've been feeling so negative, I've been feeling so bad because I'm not going to see my daughter and granddaughter where they live, making it harder on them to come see me. But, now she's got a whole different view on things, and I had an influence on that, and I was so grateful to be there. But while she was telling me the story, again, I was paying attention to the details of that story. And I was focusing in on the things that, from a different perspective, could be positive. Because we think when something bad happens to us, it's all bad, it's all negative. Some of the worst things that happened in my life were the best events because of the growth I got from it. We talked about almost getting fired from a job that I've had now, a 33-year career, managing over 10 years of that, other people and helping them grow, correspond. Helping thousands of people restructure their wealth or get into their first home, just changing their life, unbelievable career I've had, and I'm still going. So I'm not retiring anytime soon because I love what I do. But the thing that's so important, this will be my last point on the details, is when you pay attention to details, how are you dissecting them? A positive person, some people are born genuinely positive. Some people have to really, really work hard at it, and evolve. I was one of those people that, I would say I had to evolve. I didn't have to work that hard to evolve into being an overwhelmingly positive person, but I wasn't there as an energetic person. I was an entertaining person. I was a thoughtful and mindful person of others, and again, I had to evolve to that from my youth and hubris. But, being positive is something that is a daily focal point. You have to make it a daily focal point. You have to wake up, and the first thing in the morning is manifest that positivity. Hence my phrase, I'm feeling super fantastic awesome, every time somebody asks me how I'm doing. I try and stay very diligent and consistent to that message. Because you know what? I might not be feeling good. I might be feeling a little under the weather from my chemotherapy treatment, or I might have had a bad set of circumstances or a transaction that's not going as well as I'd like because of a condominium questionnaire that came back and had so many issues with the condominium that the possibility of the loan closing for the client got very scarce, and you're trying to figure it out for them and find a way to get make that property work for them because they really want that property. But you have to constantly do it, and you have to make it a mainstay in your daily routine. Wake up, first thing you do, be thankful for a beautiful day. Woke up this morning, beautiful blue skies, overwhelmingly grateful. Then I got in the car, forgot my keys. to get in the office to actually record this podcast. And I just went back, got the keys, got back in the car, listened to music on the way here. But again, details on the way there. I was like, I got my wife's car. I was like, let me go ahead, and I have an extra time today because I'm early to the podcast. Let me just drop off the car next door and get I'm going to bring the car back nicely clean and all of that. So now I'm going to make her happy because she got a nice clean car. So and yet, part of positivity really, really helps you if you're focused on others. If that is how you kind of manufacture your happiness, you're going to do very well. It makes it easier on yourself if you focus on others. So the part about religion, shifting the topics. Early in my life, I was raised a Roman Catholic. So we went to church. I did I did my Sunday school. I got my communion. Somewhere along the way, I stopped going to church except for Christmas Eve in my youth. Christmas Eve Mass, Midnight Mass is something that we did, and my brothers and I would do. I got away from the church. And although I was taking the classes and all of that stuff, I didn't understand the importance of the lessons that were being taught at the time. And maybe I did in the back of my mind because I was very thoughtful of others. I was, I was very conscious of, things that, so as I got older, I started calling myself spiritual. Somebody asked you, I was like, I'm not really religious, but I'm spiritual. And, I'm this, that, or the other thing, but I wasn't really proclaiming God, and I wasn't relating things back to Jesus Christ, which in the Roman Catholic world, Jesus is a focal point. While I was getting married, we're on our way to get married, my wife and I, we went to a Baptist church. Pastor Russ was a pastor who ended up marrying us. Love that church because that's where he taught me the lesson of taking passages of the Bible and tying them to real life sort of stuff that was in the news the other day. Now I thought that was really cool. Still didn't read the Bible. Still didn't dive in, and still called myself spiritual. Only in recent years have I been overwhelmingly comfortable and confident. It's like, what? I believe in Jesus. I believe in his sacrifices. I believe in all of that. So I believe in God. I believe in all the things that have happened to me and all these opportunities of staying positive, paying attention to details. The good things that happened in my life, because of the way I conducted myself and I thought of others first versus me, and I follow a lot of the rules of the Bible. Wasn't perfect, so I still have to ask for forgiveness for my sins. But at the end of the day, I can literally tie my life to having an all-powerful being opening doors for me and rewarding me for my humanity. And the more I dive back into my life, because when you get diagnosed with cancer, you do that deep dive into your life. The more grateful I am, and being religious. So we may dive into that a little bit further, depending on my guest. I have one guest. I hope I can get her on. She also was diagnosed with cancer, but she's doing very well right now. She was diagnosed shortly after me, but she's well on her way to recovery, and I'm hoping to have her on very, very soon. You'll love her. So, I'm more comfortable telling stories. I'm more comfortable telling a parable. I'm reading the Bible. I'm literally diving into the Bible. I'm trying to focal on it, and it's actually one of my goals this year, in 2025, is to finish the Bible, to finish the Bible. Now, maybe I'm not understanding all the nuances and the passages, all that, so I do want to get, when I move, I do want to find a place to have another voice kind of putting some of the pieces of the puzzle together. Again, I love solving puzzles, and sometimes I can't solve them on my own. And, going through life, don't try and solve everything on your own. There's plenty of opportunity for people to help you through the things that aren't hitting, the first time you try and analyze them. So that's my world in religion. I'm no longer, I am spiritual, but I'm religious spiritual. And I'm much happier. Just, feeling like I was almost hiding something when I was just saying it's spiritual. It's like, why am I not just saying I'm religious, and I believe in Jesus and I believe in God? Because I always did. It was always there. It was always something that I never, in my mind, I never swayed against, but I just didn't say it out loud. So there you go. Now it's on the internet forever. All of these things translate into my world, into sales. In sales, one of the things that is probably the funnest part about what I do is to figure things out. Again, for solving the puzzle, and in sales, one of the most important things about sales is you got to know your audience. You can't talk to the same person and explain the same thing the same way as somebody else. They're going through different life experiences. Their career paths are different. Their financial structure is different. Their housing history is different. On a personal scale, their emotional, family, life, career, all different. So the first thing I would recommend in trying to build your sales persona, if that's something you want to pursue in sales, it doesn't matter what you're selling. It really doesn't. Sales is about connecting with people. It has nothing to do with the object itself, because the object itself is usually not unique, right? I'm not the only person that has a mortgage product to help somebody buy or retain or improve, their financing, purchasing, refinancing, reverse mortgages, home equity lines of credit, all of that stuff. I'm not the only person that has that. I'm not unique in that. Where I am unique is I care about the person that I'm trying to help. And the only way to express how I care is to find out more about them. I had a good friend of mine who just had a birthday today. He worked in my call center a couple times. Charlie Murphy. And, I wished him a happy birthday on Facebook, and he responded back, and he's like, I corresponded back when he, said thank you. I said, I hope you're doing well, and miss you. And his response back was finding the need. I'm finding the need. And it's kind of his running joke with me, because, when I was managing people, I had a lot of people all the time I had a lot of sales loan officers at the time. You know, we had a call center, so they would be taking hundreds of calls in a day, this entire call center. And they would come back and they would have nothing. And they would like, you know, and I couldn't help anybody. I'm like, well, that seems impossible. You know, people are calling you asking for help, you know. Are you finding their need? Are you getting to know them? Are you finding out their circumstances and trying to find out why they called? Why are they calling a call center? You know, why are they interested in restructuring their loan? And, you know, and most of the time, a lot of loan officers can tend to get very linear. You know, the only way to help somebody is to lower their rate. Well, no, that's not the only way to help somebody. The only way to help somebody is lower their pain threshold, lower their anxiety, lower their whatever's concerning them, whatever's hitting them. You know, examples I give all the time is, you know, I can look at somebody's credit report and I can see what their reported debt is, but I don't know whether they have kids in daycare, and I don't know whether they have kids going to college. I don't know whether they have these outside expenses that are not reported on a credit report that are weighing them down so greatly that they're overwhelmed and thinking that they can't keep up their housing expense. So you got to find out. You got to ask more questions. You got to figure out what's going on. It's like, you got to find out why they called. You got to find the need. What's the need? What's the reason that you called? So it's ironic that yesterday that was a text I got or correspondence I got back from him through Facebook, because that is true. You know, and part of finding a need is getting to know your audience. In this particular case, as an originator, you're trying to find the individual on the sales. When I was an account executive at PHH, I had an account. I was trying to build a business out of nothing, trying to sell a platform called CU Move In, Credit U Move In. It was this origination platform that we had rolled out to a company called Reology at the time, who bought PHH. And Reology owned Century 21, ERA, and Coldwell Banker. And they used to try and get loan officers in every branch to try and get them to get business out of the agents that worked out of those branches. And they wanted to go to this uniform platform where it's like, no, we're just going to give every branch an 800 number unique to them. We're going to have the agents give the 800 number to the clients, and the clients are going to call the 800 number, and then we're going to do everything through this call center. And for years, it was very productive, very productive. You know, one of the things that turned the table on that circumstances is that when they had the financial collapse, structures like marketing agreements, because they would sign a marketing, because a lot of these, all of the real estate companies were, they're franchises. You know, they're independently owned, they're brokered. You know, they're paying, you know, they pay that brokerage fee for the license and some of the identity of being a brand of Century 21 or a brand of ERA or a brand of Coldwell Banker. So there was no, it was under a corporate umbrella, and of course every agent's independent as well. So it was a matter of selling convenience, right? But they, you know, they thought, our company, PHH, thought, or at least my manager at the time, Rich Trosco, thought, hey, why don't we do this with credit unions? There's a ton of credit unions, and he had a big credit union relationship with CUNA, which is a Credit Union National Association. So he had a relationship with them for years. Why don't we try to go to credit unions, and those credit unions that either don't have a mortgage platform because they don't have an infrastructure to hire a mortgage professional, understand all the nuances of mortgage from a compliance standpoint. Originators, underwriters, processors, closers. They just didn't have the wherewithal, the infrastructure to do it, or they had the infrastructure to do it, but they didn't want to dive into more of the complex products like the FHAs and the VA products of the world. So it was a cool concept. I was supposed to be doing a different job when I got an account manager role, but that market kind of tanked at the time, so I was sitting there without a territory. So they dropped this book on my desk, and I had to sell this. Now, one of the things you have to know about credit unions, and I had to learn my audience, was credit unions are self-contained. They are entities that have memberships, and the memberships are rewarded. So it's not like a bank that has shareholders. The members are kind of the shareholders. They're the ones who are there. So you had to have a different dialogue. So luckily, Rich having his experience, he taught me that. So I had to understand that audience. So when I was going in and I was pitching a mortgage plan for them, I was speaking directly to their language for the members, the benefit of the members. This is the and I was very successful in traveling the country and getting those contracts signed and building a team of salespeople and originators on these 800 numbers and getting them to do a call into this call center and get mortgages done. So, knowing who your audience is in sales is my number one rule, because then that teaches you how you have to communicate with them. And once you figure out how to communicate with them and connect with them, the sales component becomes easier, because it's no longer about the widget, it's about the relationship. And that individual, and I cared enough as a salesperson or as just a person on the other side of a phone or face to face, for a matter of fact, and I cared about your success more than I cared about mine. Cared about you getting into that home. I cared about you getting better, more financially stable. I cared about your family. I cared about your future. For the credit union component, as an example, I cared about, credit unions compete with banks. So at that time, my biggest thing was like, if you're not offering mortgages or you're not offering these mortgage products, where are they getting them from? Well, they're getting them from banks. And what are the banks doing with them? Well, banks don't like mortgages as a whole. It's not a product. It's a very cumbersome product. It's very highly regulated. You can get more trouble than you can get success out of. So they do it because they want to build their asset business. They want to build their portfolio. So they want to sell against you, the credit union, to get your deposits away from them. So knowing that audience, that's where I was focusing my energy. Well, we don't want your membership to go to a bank to get a mortgage, because they're only going to solicit for your deposits. So you have a potential of losing business by not offering mortgages. So let us be your conduit for that. And again, highly successful. Knowing your audience and not playing a measure of fear. It's a measure of benefit. The more memberships you retain, the more assets you retain, the more product you can give to your members, the more value you can give to your members. So if you're in the sales industry, or if you're talking to a sales representative, look for that characteristic. Look for somebody who's genuinely interested in you and your success versus them and their success. And the last part I'll talk about right now is what's going to happen in 2025 from a mortgage perspective, which is my wheelhouse. For 3 years now, we've been fighting this battle of the consumer waiting for things to happen, waiting for the shoe to fall, waiting for the property values to drop, waiting for the interest rates to drop. And as they're waiting, they're spending tens of thousands of dollars making somebody else rich. And those other people are those big entities like BlackRock and others that buy a whole bunch of real estate and then rent it out. And they're renting it out at profit. They have these assets, these real estate assets. They have somebody come in there and live in those assets and pay them money. So if your housing expense is $3,000 a month, and you're just getting $3,000 a month, calculate that over 10 years. Multiply that by 120. That's how much you're making BlackRock or any landlord richer. You get none of that money. If you invest in real estate, even if that payment is a little bit more than that $3,000, you are gaining equity in your house. And again, even if there's a shortfall in values over a small period of time, we're not talking about flipping a property, right? We're talking about living in a property. Over 10 years, there's going to be value there in two different ways. One, over the course of making payments towards that house, you're paying principal and interest. Principal means that you owe less money every single month against that house. The second thing that grows your value is appreciation. So even if there's a downturn in a property value over the next year or two, over the next 10 years, you'll be up 5, 10, 15, 20, 25%, depending, right? Depending on where you live, what's going on in the environment around you. But your equity starts growing in those two components. Or let's do it this way. You buy your house, right? And let's say you have a little bit of down payment down in that. Your house is appreciating as your balance is going down. So you're growing equity. That's money that's yours as a consumer, as a homeowner. That's something that you can tap into your future, whether you sell the house to retire, or maybe you get to the point where you have 40, 50% equity. You want to stay in the home, but you know what? The housing expense is too much to carry on, and you go to a reverse mortgage, and you just have interest pay through the equity of the home, and you stay in the home, and all you have to pay is taxes and insurance every year, and you live comfortably for as long as you want to live in that house. So doesn't make sense to me to not own real estate. Just doesn't make sense. I can't fathom giving away my hard-earned money to somebody else to make them richer, and I'm getting nothing out of it. I'm getting a roof over my head, keeping my family dry, but I can't retire on it. I can't, at the end of the day, if I rented my entire life at almost the same expense it would take to have a housing payment, right? I don't have anything valuable in my possession when it comes to retirement. In addition to whatever I might have put in a 401k or might have saved on my own or might have invested in the stocks or what have you. Which still not enough people are doing. I encourage you to take 2, 3, 5%, invest into something other than just a regular savings account. But diversify your portfolio. Whatever that amount is, don't put it all in one basket. So back to 2025. It is largely apparent based on what's going on with the U.S. economy, employment, housing, the inflation, that it's very unlikely that we're going to see any rate declines. Now, that being said, I measure things over the 10-year. The 10 years, as a mortgage person in the industry, I follow the 10-year. I use Market Watch to follow the 10-year. And the reason I do that is usually you can kind of judge the margin of what a mortgage is going to be, which is a 30-year mortgage-backed security versus a 10-year bond. And that margin, on average, is anywhere from 2.25% to 3%. Well, over the last couple of years, year and a half or so, margin's been 3%. It's been on the high end of that scale. In other words, if you see a 4.5% 10-year bond, then you're looking at a 7.5% mortgage rate. And that margin seems to be lower. Well, not seems to be, it is lower, So we're about 4.5 right now. We're creeping up to 5, so we're 4.7, so on and so forth. We're high. But the mortgage rates, instead of being at 8% where they were in the fall, when we were at that same 10-year bond rate, now the mortgage rates are still in the low 7s and high 6s, depending on the property type, your credit score, and your loan amount. So the blessing is, and of course ownership when you're buying investment, your rates there's variables in rates and risk. But right now the rates are cheaper than they were in the fall with the same rate of the 10-year. Or so that's good news. So it's cheaper to buy homes right now than it was in the fall of 2023. And I would recommend everybody take heed on that, because if your only factor is I want to wait for the rates to drop before I get into buying real estate, that is another year of hope. That's still not 100% manufactured, because, ladies and gentlemen, 7% interest rate over the course of the 30 years that I've been in the industry is a darn good rate. In my world, in 1991, the first refinance bubble was getting people out of the 10 to 13% range, 14, 16% range mortgages from the 80s to 9.5, 9, right? Second refinance bubble was when it dropped to 8. Third refinance bubble was when it dropped to 7, right? So people were clamoring, couldn't pick up the phone fast enough to get people to refinance into the 7% range, and now people are sitting on the sidelines because the rates are 7%. Because somehow in our mindset, the COVID 3% interest rates that were out there, and their interest rates drop after the financial collapse, are supposed to be the normal. No, that's not the normal. That's an anomaly. We're probably at the normal, between 6-7%. If it drops down to 5%, great, refinance, get yourself in a better position. But never judge putting a house over your head because of an interest rate. It doesn't make any sense. If you have to rent, tell me what the interest rate is on your rental. You're paying your landlord. What's your interest rate, landlord? He's like, I don't have an interest rate. I'm just paying a flat fee of $3,000 a month. Okay. Well, if you're okay with $3,000 a month, or maybe $3,500 a month, what does that buy you? Well, you need to talk to a mortgage professional. Find out what that budget is. Because again, are you just giving money away? Or are you growing wealth? House appreciates, balances depreciate, equity grows. That's your income, that's your money. Keep a roof over your house, a roof over your head, your family's head, while you're growing wealth. Not a bad combination. So I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you for joining me on the second episode. Once I figure all of this stuff out, if you like the content as we grow, please hit the subscribe button. I'll be doing short videos as well, market interactions, things that are important to know, trends that might be coming that you should be aware of. Also, I'm developing a Super Fantastic Awesome website. I'm Feeling Super Fantastic Awesome website. I will be having some I'm Feeling Super Fantastic Awesome gear. Here's an example of a hat. This was actually given to me from a friend when I was first diagnosed with cancer in support. And then I made t-shirts before I had cancer, formed by saying, I'm feeling super fantastic awesome, but I've designed a logo. I'm going to be selling I'm feeling super fantastic awesome goods. On that logo, it'll have, so I'm feeling super fantastic awesome 2025. And then at the bottom of it says smile. Since I live in Florida, I've got palm trees and the sunrise and the things that I love about living down here in Florida. But if you are interested in purchasing those items, you can get pre-orders. I'll get that information out to you. But the important thing is that a portion of those proceeds are going to go to fighting cancer through either St. Jude's, breast cancer, and other vehicles, because cancer is something that impacts pretty much everybody on the face of this planet, whether it's through a family member or a friend, or personally that you're going through it. And my goal in my experience is, even when I go into my treatments and even when I go in and people are asking me how I'm doing, they feel, sometimes they feel, they have a glum face to even ask me how I'm doing, and as soon as I say I'm feeling super fantastic awesome, I lift and I put a smile on their face. So at the end of this, I told you I'm going to ask you for two things out of you. The first thing is, please, every day, put a smile on somebody's face. Number two, count your blessings at the end of every day. Pay attention to those details. They're there. At the end of the day, count all those blessings. Whether it's a hug from a child, or somebody who opened a door for you, or catching those 3 green lights in a row. Count your blessings. Thanks for joining me. I hope you have a super fantastic, awesome day.
I'm feeling super